Hi everybody, welcome back to another watercolor segment with Laurel Hart. Today I am going to be painting some beautiful pink roses. And the thing that I want to talk about today is what is called direct painting. In other words, I'm not going to be doing an underwash per se as I normally do. I'm going to be starting more right at the nucleus of my subject, which is these beautiful roses here. And I'm going to start right in directly with the color right in the nucleus of my center of interest, which is going to be that beautiful white area right in through here. I'm going to start then with my drawing on my paper. It's Winsor Newton 140 pound weight. And I have gridded my photo, but I actually, in this case, I freehanded this drawing on. I don't think that I worry too much about being too fussy when I'm doing an organic subject like flowers or trees. They can have some variation and still turn out looking right. So I have just freehanded this on my paper instead of doing all of the grid process. And I think I've got a pretty accurate likeness. So I'm going to get started with my paints. I'm going to be using a lot of magenta here, here. And it's got a beautiful pink tint to it that will work nicely for these roses. I'm going to play up the fact that I see a lot of yellow and some orange in here. And down in the orange, I'm going to be bringing in some of the colors of the flowers as well so that everything is interrelated and harmonized. And the brushes that I'll be using, my Low Cornell number 8 is what I'm going to be starting with. And then as I get more out to the background, I'll be using maybe some of the bigger brushes of 14 and possibly the Winsor Newton Series 250 Squirrel Mop. So I'm starting out with this beautiful pink color. And I'm gonna start out with it pretty concentrated. And you'll notice that on my drawing, I have shaded in some of the areas that that I don't want to leave as white. So that's just for my reference. And it's always nice to vary the color a little bit so it doesn't get too monotonous. There's going to be a lot of pink in this. So I'm going to pop in some yellow in here in places. And I think it's going to add, lightening up onto the pink color is just going to be done by adding more water to the pigment, and that's how it's going to get lighter. I'm going to pull a little bit of this out into the background area as I'm going here, so I lose some edges. Hopping over some of these whites here. And then I'm just going to try to really establish my pattern of whites here as I begin. And I'm just really going at it, just like I said, directly, and hopping over those whites that I don't want to cover up. That was ultramarine blue that I just went into, and I want that softened a little bit there. So I'll just add a little bit of water there. Here, on these shadows in here, I can see a lot of orangish yellow, so I'm going to play that up. You really have to punch it in watercolor because it will dry dry a little bit lighter than the value that you painted in wet. And the more you get familiar with your watercolors, the more you'll recognize the amount of pigment that you need to use to make things strong enough or pastel enough in many cases. So now right into here, I'm even going to add in a little bit of cadmium red, really punch that pink color right in here. And you might think the worry would be that my pencil underneath here, the pencil lines are going to show through and kind of muddy this up, but it hasn't really been my experience too much that happens. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think I'm a little more concerned that I lose my light and dark pattern rather than getting a muddiness from my pencil. Okay, and above that, I think we've got a little bit of, yeah, this needs to come down into here. Then it's going to come back up into here. Fold back on as that petal folds out. And there's actually kind of a lot of purple back in here, but I might wait. Well, I didn't wait. Okay, that's there. I'm going to get back behind this rose is going to be a dark value. So I'm going to get that in there. And let all of those edges just kind of softly bleed together. I can come back and clean that up if I need to later. And coming right down here in the background here, that's going to be, I think, where we're going to be seeing some foliage in there. So I'm going to go directly to that green coming in there. And I've got this pink petal back here too that's got to come up against the edge of this part. It's probably the white under part of the flower, but since it's in shadow, it's going to have a little bit of tone on it. Not that much. I'll blot that back. And I'm going to get a little bit of the green going back here. This is a sap green, and it's I like it because it blends well with really beautifully with burnt sienna to make a really beautiful. And I let it bleed down into that rose, but I don't think I'm going to mind that. I think that's going to be okay where I let that bleed back into there. I'm going to turn that into a purple back there. Since I'm already getting into this darker background color, I'm going to just keep going a little bit. Set my flowers off back here. Okay, don't get too scared. I'm gonna pull this together at the end, hopefully. I know right now that's pretty pretty raw color, but I think I can pull it together at the end. Then I'm going to take my sap green still, give it a little brighter kick to it, and jump over all of these little baby breath shapes. I'm losing my rose a little bit back here, but I think I can redefine it. I'm careful. This foreground leaf, I want to really make sure I leave that white so I can get those beautiful shadows across it. Here's another. That green color I just made with sap green and burnt sienna and a little bit of ultramarine blue. And that makes a really pretty dark green. And I'm just going to try to preserve some of those lacy patterns of that on the leaf there. And back in here, put a little bit of yellow. So I'm really using the colors that I normally use when I layer on those, when I layer a painting with a light wash to begin with, but I'm just doing it kind of all at once, directly. And this really does allow you to keep your color really clean as you're painting as you go. those patterns are a little bit too regular. And I want to make sure I get that a little bit of that leaf down in there. So I'm going to make sure I leave a little bit of that bright green. There's going to be a little bit of that showing through here too, so putting in a little bit of that. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that point over here. So I've got a clear light pattern going there, light and shadow pattern going. And then I'm going to come back in and work over here on these flowers. Starting again with my, not my alizarin, I meant my magenta. You can see how much pinker that is than the alizarin. Okay, and I'm going to really watch my whites over here. And my hand from getting in my painting if I can. Okay. And that, I'm playing up the reflected light under there again, pushing it to a really kind of a yellow tone there. Whoops, that was alizarin. I don't want that. I want the pink again. So I'm right here coming in there. And then there's this petal back here. It's coming out in front of that body. And that's really, really pale, so I'm just going to do a little bit of water on it, actually. But I pulled too much paint in there, so take that out. Okay, so continuing down this flower, going into the petal on this next one, right here. And oh, that's so pretty where the light is shining through that petal. The only thing I can really think to do there is to maybe blot that out just a little bit. And then there's going to be a shadow edge down between that petal and the body of the flower. So I'm over here now, and I really see a lot of yellow right in there. I'm gonna punch that towards the yellow. And then down in here, a lot of blue purpliness. But you have to be kind of careful not to go to a brown. Get some more pink in there. That's better. That's sharpening it up a little bit better. Coloring it a little better, actually. Okay, and then there's a beautiful little reflected light right on the bottom of that flower. Again, punching that yellow in there, right in here. Okay, and then these little shapes over in here, I want to be very, very subtle. So I'm trying to get more water in those, but my palette keeps repelling it. So right in here is this little shape. And then between the two roses here, see how yellow that is in there? I want to really play that up too. Add a little bit of peachy color down as it comes down into here. Just keeping those abstract patterns of light and shade going. But that, in the end, is what's going to make this look more real. A strange phenomenon, but it is somehow how our eyes see in these abstract patterns of light and dark, light, shade. Those, I think, need to be a little bit pinker too. Okay. There's just a little ring of shadow that I'm missing there, and a little piece, little triangular piece there. Okay. And then that leaf is almost all in light. A little bit of texture coming down there. There's that one going over there. And then right here, I want to get that negative space in there of a of a to set off that. And I can see that I didn't do part of the flower there. This in here is actually a pink coming around there and here. And this is going to want to be a lot lighter in there, so I'm going to pull that out with the wet brush. Just scrub it out a little bit. As I said before, this paper lifts so well that you don't need to really worry too much if you get stuff too dark. So that leaf right there, petal, is kind of coming back into there. And then right there is going to be that really important white that I don't want to lose. There's actually not any white there. I don't know what that's doing. Okay. And then in between here is going to be green back in there with just whatever foliage is back there. Okay, so coming up against that. Okay. And I am seeing a little bit of green up between there. Against that edge of the rose there. Gonna leave the edge of that leaf. And one of those wants to be probably a little bit yellower in there. And I brought that line up a little higher on my rose because I felt like I was losing a little bit of that really nice white that I needed back in there. Okay, then coming down into this foliage down in here, start with the kind of extra bright. And then I can come back in and push it back if I need to later. Okay. I think that's where I wanted this nice white there, and I just went over it. But as I deepen the darks around it, it will push it out and it'll be okay. And we've got the one there that is totally in the dark. I mean, totally in the light. So we'll let that stand out as it is. Okay, and then this shadow is lightening up a little as it comes into this orange, so I'm gonna let it do that. It comes into there. And then I think I'll go ahead and put that in. When you're working with rounded forms, the shadow side is going to end with a soft edge. So I'm just going to pull that out a little bit and blot it back like so. And actually, that should be a little bit deeper through there and right under here too. To make that believable. If I do a soft edge out here, it almost gives that a glow into the light there. And then before this dries, I want to pull that shadow color forward. So I've got light reflecting down into here too. And work my way into some purple. And right underneath it, there's going to be some dark too. The shadow gets a little less concentrated and softer as it moves away from the object. And I lost a little bit of my my white up in here. Wanted to come around that. Yeah, that's a little better. And then put the navel or whatever that is right there in. Okay. Now, I want to get my darks in down in between the flowers here. I want my stems to be a bright green color, so I'm going to get those in here. And so I'm continuing to fill in the space here in between the roses. And I'm just kind of trying to jump over some of these little things that are in light, especially down here, this big area of baby's breath. Really want to leave that. And I don't want to single those out too much. I want to leave them in kind of a group. We'll get rid of that one. Okay. And I'm going to let that sit for a little bit and come down and start working into the glass vase. Okay, glass is kind of fun to do, and it's really just, again, or just painting the patterns of light and shade on there. I'm going to wet this now before I come in because I want soft edges on these shapes in here pretty much. When it's a reflection, it's usually pretty soft. Okay. So I'm seeing that there's some reflection of the green coming down through here. I'm going to put that in, and some of the orange is reflecting up into here. So put some little bit of that in. And then over in here, I've got some nice greens that are flowing down here. And I'm going to help cut those back a little bit. Okay, that was kind of nice. That just went right around my orange for me. And there's a nice little shadow around the lip of this vase. So I want to get that in there, really dark. And a lot of this is in shadow itself, so I don't want to leave that all white under there. Over here, I'm going to pull that down as a kind of a reflection too. Over in here, a little bit of dark to bleed back into that. And there's a part right here that's kind of more of a blue. So let's throw a little bit of that in. That kind of seems to continue on down in here too. Kind of getting in the way of my reflected orange there. So I've got this really nice light pattern going up this other side over here that I'm happy with. I want to keep that going. Okay, and down under the vase now we've got to do a reflection. And I still like putting some of the orange in there, I think. Okay, and then over in here is a little, need to just get a little dark here. This has a dark leg that comes down. And then over on this side, it is kind of, we've got our background back there with that right up against the glass. And then it's skipping over the leg because the leg is in white. So I'm going to do that. Like so. Okay, I'm about there. I don't think I'm going to put this shadow in because I like the balance of my design and what's going on here, but I do need to come back in now and start putting in my darkest darks into my, setting off the edge of that rose right there. And down in here as well, setting off that stem of that flower. So that's just giving it a little more dimension too. And up in here, let's see, there is, yeah, this is actually should be a dark in here. And I can paint behind, see some of these, some of this underwash now, and make it look like it's some of the baby's breath that's in a little bit more shadow. Just kind of cut the shape of my, I'm going to kind of go over this a little bit so I don't have too many hard edges back here. But we're going to start to see our white pattern come out a lot more prominently as we put in these really deeper darks. And see, I'm going to jump over that little piece of leaf back there because that's just adds a nice little interest, and looks like there's stuff back there. And I'm toning down that really bright color that was there. I'm maybe even going to bring that over that leaf to throw that in the background a little bit more. That feels a little better. And do I want to put anything? This is so pretty. I hate to cover it up, but I think I might do a little bit around some more. Give us a little more baby's breath, leaving that really nice color showing. And then that little pink space there could either be another flower back there. We don't need to know. Okay, getting there. Start giving these leaves a little dimension. And back up at the top here, I do think we'll go with a darker. Set that leaf off now. And also set that rose out that's at the top. Yeah, I think it needed that. We needed to see the outline of that flower. And then we need some definition back there too. I don't like what I did right there. And we want a hard edge against that flower there too. I almost want to push that back a little bit. We're getting close to the end here. I'm feeling like we still do need some dark definition over in here, so I'm going to work on that. And that down in here seems like it's needing a bit more of a dark something or other. I don't want to undo all the soft edges I had there, but this, I still feel like this just needs to be deepened. Okay, and I want to define a little bit in these flowers too. Not a ton, but so that we know that they are roses. And up in this one a little bit too. I feel like I lost the edge of that a little. And then still, I'm disappointed I lost my white here. I'm going to try to bring that back as much as I can. Okay, then that's the petal right there, I think. kind of recapture my abstract shapes in here to let us know that that is a flower back there. Okay, that defines that a little bit better. And I'm just blending that in there. There's kind of an important shadow here I missed coming across this leaf. Probably being cast by that. By that one up above. I'm just trying to kind of paint some of these abstract shapes in here to give the feeling that these leaves are overlapping each other, I guess. I think maybe right there. This part of the background. So here's where I need to be careful that I stop, step back and kind of look at and see what I've got, what I really do need, what I don't need. This is kind of where things can be starting to get overworked. There, I think that helped to throw that back into shadow just a little bit more. That flower right there was maybe competing a little bit. Okay, I think I'm about ready to call it good. There's one little place where I would like to cut away against these whites again. Okay, thank you. I think we've reached the end of this demo. There may be a few more little things that I may do to this before it's completely finished, like erase my pencil marks for sure. But thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope this has been a worthwhile demonstration for you on direct painting. And I look forward to seeing you again with our next segment. Thank you, and leave any comments below, any questions you may have, or things that you may want to talk about. Thanks again.